judge. So when you see them use Mott and they represent it by that particular female called Mott, she earned that title because she was the most just judge of the period. So she earned the title of Mott, and she earned the title of being just in her judgment. And so we know her in modern times, they call her Karma. They call her Karma and Akasha because she keep the records for judgment. So it works like this. The wisdom precedes the justice. The wisdom collects the information that the judgment will be rendered by. So you got to be wise enough to know the right and wrong aspect. So then you see your biblical story of Adam and Eve not knowing right and wrong. That's what they're talking about because, hey, how y'all doing? Let me say hi to a couple people. Hey, Malika, Abadia, how y'all doing? So when you look at Mott in Egypt, you see other things that's tied to it. A set of scales, the woman with the wings, these different things. So you see all of this stuff in the stela or the hieroglyph. So you go to a historical record in the hieroglyph and you see that there's a whole lot of judgments taking place. And what we don't realize is that in Egypt, you have a set of earth guardians. These earth guardians are not originally from Egypt. They came from deeper in the interior of Africa. So we end up encountering something they call a Dogon. Now, in the Dogon story, they said that the black people came from Sirius A, Sirius B, and Sirius C. And they have some other things in their story that I'm not going to touch on because they haven't exposed it to the Western world for a reason. But they tell that the gods, Amo and Namo, when they begin to become conscious on earth, came and told them to restrain from the use of projectile weaponry. This is before the invention of gunpowder. We're talking thousands of years ago. They're telling them to avoid the projectile weapons. Now, why would they tell them that? Because projectile weapons aren't invented yet, or were they? So what they was warning them about is the projectile weaponry that we call firearms. Leads down a bigger bomb path that will end up in a nuclear bomb as the result. That's why they warned them against it. Another reason they warned them against it is because during the transitional phase from the Piscean age into the Aquarian age, the firearm would be the symbol for the strength and the power, which is told to us by indicating the chosen one as a spear. Say the flaming spear or the burning spear. Now, on the continent of Africa, the designated one as the son of man is represented by a spear where the tip of the spear is on fire. So you see that the publication here was out of Chicago for the New Panther Vanguard was called the Flaming Spear. You go to Jamaica, Haiti, and islands, and you find a very strong reference to the Flaming Spear, which points back to the connection to Africa. Whereas over here, it's not a flaming spear, it's a golden arrow in what they call the Americas, which is the Amur Inca. And this is why everybody's saying that they Moors. Amur Inca is this side of the water, and Afar Inca is the other side of the water that they call Africa. And all of these things becomes relevant as we unravel how did black people get at the bottom. So we go and we look at the history timeline. First, we had to understand how did the gods get trapped in the physical body, which goes to the collider catastrophe of a far ancient bygone period. The collider was built where the Mediterranean is. And when they blew it up to implode the fourth dimension and cause all of the residual energies to slow down in the fourth dimension as it enters the third, which would cause a solidifying effect, almost like steam or vapor freezing. And these whole light beings became disoriented, at which time they was attached to something called the silver cord. And you hear astral travelers always talking about the silver cord. You need the silver cord, and this is why you see your solar and lunar references in all secret societies. When your souls got trapped in the physical, three-dimensional, fixed position reality, you needed the silver cord in order to loop you. In order to loop you back into what they call the reincarnation cycle. So now you're here on Earth, but you still have abilities. You can still do things using the silver cord, or what they call the silver key, which is the night magic. And the night magic allows you to traverse using your silver cord as the lifeline to a reflection of the creator, but it's not the creator. And so now you start to see why the solar symbolism becomes necessary, because the lunar reflects the solar, right? So if you have to get to a point where you outgrow the silver cord or the reflective intelligence, the false intelligence of the silver cord, you become what they call enlightened, which means that just like that lotus flower, the inner sun, the pyramid, the pyramid, pyro means fire, mid means in the middle. So when the pyramid opens up, when the fire in the middle opens up, this is what they call the Ra effect. The Ra effect. This is when you become fully realized to who and what you are. So now the solar ray is exactly this. The creator is everything. All right? And it's in everything. However, the creator, when it comes into this reality, it wants to give you the free will to choose to do the right thing. So the creator says, I'm going to close myself into this little bitty ball in the middle of you. And they put it right here in your heart chakra. And for those who are spiritually gifted, it looks like a little gold chip in the heart. It looks like a little gold chip. And you have to be diligent in your responsibilities according to the life path you choose. So if I choose to be a doctor, I have to be diligent in my life path as a doctor with the highest intention to heal the sick in order to allow that little pebble of gold to grow. And this is what they call illumination. That little pebble of gold, or that golden light, is sealed in your heart chakra with something they call the black goo by energy workers, which will bring us to what they call the redemption of the righteous, when we understand what that goo is and how it got there. So this little old sliver of light is expressed in your New Testament of the Bible as the light, that little pebble, shine in the dark because it's wrapped in that black goo. But the dark comprehend it not, right? So it also tells you in your New Testament, it's the words in red that I'm speaking of, that this light, when you let your light shine, when both of your eyes become one, your whole body is filled with light. Your whole body and your eyes can never become one until this piece of gold breaks your silver cord. This piece of gold is rooted in an emotional framework of what you call love. But there's no such thing in truth as an emotion called love. Love is an energy of creator, which is this little pebble of gold. And when it's activated and you become consumed with what they call the passion, this little pebble of gold becomes a big, radiant, glowing ember of gold light. Your aura switches. You no longer can have an aura that is a silver aura, which gives the appearance of white. Now your aura is gold, the switch. You have to sever the silver cord by performing specific things. You set your life path. This is why they say this is a free will universe. And this is why you use both the good and the bad to sift it out. Aleister Crowley, the one they call the Beast 666, he said, do as thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. But they stop right there. Then they never quote the second half. Will under love. That means that whatever you do, if you don't do it from the pure intent of that love, you're not doing it from the creator. You're doing it from the selfish aspect of the self. So Crowley, being the beast, you will never accept anything that he said. But you got to remember yin and yang, masculine and feminine, positive and negative. The next one comes in where you go over here to Franz Bardon in Initiation in the Hermetics, where he tell you that when you are becoming a realized God self, there is nothing outside of you that you should submit to. Anything that come and approach you, you compel it to identify itself, what its purpose is, and where it come from. So who are you? What do you want? And why are you here? And the rule of the universe is good or bad. It does not matter. If it get in a certain area around you, it has to answer you in truth. If it attempts to use deception, it will try to flee, especially if you are a woman. And I'll get to that in a minute. And so if you ask somebody who you are directly, what do you want and where do you come from? And you understand mentally that tying that to your heart center, they cannot, by the rules of this universe, use deception and mislead you. Our problem is we normally just stop with asking them their name. What's your name? That's not who they are. And so when you look in your New Testament biblical description and they ask the demon, who are you? He said, we are legion, for we are many. They had identified that they were a whole bunch of demons, but demon mean like gods and spirits. And he had to tell them that there was a lot of them. So he couldn't tell them where all of them came from. But at that point, when they cannot give you a full answer, you have two options. You can tell them to flee, and they have to flee according to the universal rules. So you hear like an artist like Tupac say that once you get an understanding in the rules of the game, then the whole game is like a trick. It's like a game to be played. This is what he's talking about. Because if a man, right, go back to this beginning, what is the man's job? The man's only job is to be responsible. His only job is to be responsible. From the beginning, man had responsibility. He got responsibility as a ruler god. Now, the woman had a different function than the man, though her responsibilities are rooted in what she is, the mother. So now, if the man is being responsible and the woman is being the mother, the woman is keeping everything stable and balanced, and the man is covering the outside, the perimeter. He's the point man. So anybody that's been to the military know what the point man is. He goes out, he makes a way for the family to progress and to function most effectively. It's like a little contingent on the battlefield where they send the point man out. So when they exploded the collider, trapped you into this 3D rebirth cycle, that was not the doing of the ones who failed. They were trapped by science. Spirit science, because you have to know how the spirit work. In the spiritual dimensions work like music. As the music scale goes up, it goes up in a spiral. That's called the music scale. It's the same way with the dimensions. So when you at the fourth and the third dimension, it's a spiraling effect. And this is how they trap us in the cycles. They trap us in the cycles. That's why if you see a guy with a certain type of female, he always pick the same type of female that gives him the same type of problem. The reason he's doing that is because he's trapped in that cycle. The cycle is the control mechanism. By running you in a circle, you stay confused. By staying confused, you cannot break free. So then time goes on. No more ammo telling them to avoid the projectile weapons, right? Now, they knowing that these projectile weapons is coming because as a result of the collider being exploded, it caused a nuclear war on Earth. which was the cause of the last ice age prematurely and for an extended period of time, and it had nothing to do with the dinosaurs. They was already gone from a different, for a different reason, which I'm not going to get into dinosaurs right now because they are irrelevant to how black people got in the condition, because that part of our history was already over. And so when we look at the timeline, we get all the way up to a BC period, and you have a new species of hominid, sapien, that came from nowhere. Nobody don't know where they came from. And so you hear everybody talking about the Anunnaki, about the Elohim, different terms, and the problem comes in here. The black people that came with as the children of Nomo and Amo were what you call guardians of the galaxy. They had a purpose here on Earth. They came here on Earth for a specific purpose. Now, we're going to get to that as we go into what they are. They are reptilian, mammalian hybrids that was first purified in the Syrian constellational complex. And once they became purified by spiritual processes, what you know on Earth is alchemical processes, this has taught them how to heal the body from the inside out. This becomes important. When you look at Africa now, and they've been saying this for hundreds of years, but everybody's ignoring it. The disease of HIV and AIDS, the African in the deepest interior that haven't even been exposed to it is developing an immunity to that condition. And the reason is they are the guardians. They the cleanup crew. They came ahead of time because of premonition, as you would call it in the psychic realms, clairvoyance. So Amo and Namo led them to Earth for a purpose, which we're going to get to in a minute. They all agreed to come. Now, some people say, well, there's no record of us being here or agreeing to this. The record is there. And we're going to all get to see how we was able to look at the timeline from outside of the timeline to figure out where we would enter, the person we would choose to be, and the life we would endure in order to bring out our greatest good in order for this cleanup effort that's been taking place. And so we all chose it. And some of us knew that there's a chance that because of the reincarnation system, we might not wake up in this system and have to come back and keep doing it like the people that's trapped with the silver cord. The whole goal was to break the silver cord cycle so that you could all ascend, because they was trying to trap people and prevent people from ascending. So this leads to a future transgression that hadn't happened in the time that Amo and Namo sent their children here. And so they all knew why they were here subconsciously. And this is why they begin to do what they call the ceremonial reminders. They remind us each other of what they went through in the ceremonies, in the rituals. It also tells them why they are here, how long they've been here, and when they would be leaving. All of it is in the Dogon ritual. But you are not initiated into the Dogon tribe as an outsider to get the full measure. So they can't give you the full measure. They only authorized to give you so much. So when you see the stories about the Dogon, they're only authorized to give out so much information. But it's something in their blood that was needed. And this was what they call a healing factor or a recovery factor in the blood of that particular species of reptilian mammalian hybrid when they came. They had overseers, which are still there overseeing them, because there's only so much that is allowed to be done to them before the full wrath of heaven crashed down on earth and cleaned it up prematurely. Nobody wanted it to be done early because nobody wanted to repeat the misery. And so we have to know where to look to clean up the stories. So when you get to that 10,000 year period, you start to see that there are strange animals being brought from all over the world that had not yet been identified because they were a new species. And the queen has having all of her scientists do various identifications on them, and they are identifying any animal that had not yet been identified. Now, it's only going to be one mammal on the continent of Africa you're not going to find in the hieroglyphics. Every other major mammal will be there, but it's a reason for that. And so all of these different animals being brought to them, there was a particular one that nobody could identify. Now, we at the 10,000 year point. 10,000 years, was approximately 8,000 BC. And there was already a residual conflict between the Egyptian pantheon or royal family and the Babylonian